Hello, Facebook world. Welcome to Haydn Temple. As you can see, I'm just sitting here in the manor of Haydn Temple at the moment, and just about to do another interview for part of our interview series for Inside the Temple. So Inside the Temple is actually a platform that's about to launch in the next month or so. So we're currently in the middle of a campaign for that. So what we're doing at the moment is giving you a little taster, like a little sample of a lot of the different teachers and mentors from all around the world who are coming on to be part of Inside the Temple. So it's a really exciting platform, something very different to what's been birthed before. So this one is actually, will have a free podcast section, but it also will have a section where you're having full access to these teachers and mentors who are really sharing the depths of their gifts with the world. So where you might normally need to, go to a weekend workshop or go to a week-long retreat, which not everybody is actually able to do. So this is a platform that's going to be able to bring those teachers basically into your lounge room. So it's to really get in and get the nitty gritty details from them. And so at the moment, what I'm doing is little tasters. And so we're just about to jump on with my next guest, with Tahlia, who I've just seen that she's jumping on live now. So let's bring her in here to add her to this call and meet the beautiful Tahlia, who I just love and adore. So Tahlia and I met each other actually doing our womb apprenticeship with Janine. So some of you might have seen that I interviewed Janine a couple of days ago. And so Tahlia and I did our year-long apprenticeship with her together. So we've definitely journeyed quite a journey, that's for certain. So let's see if this is actually it says it's adding her. So hopefully, Tahlia, if you're watching, it should be hopefully coming up with a little, oh, there she is. Yay, she's on. Hello. So I was just giving a little bit of information to everyone on the journey that we've had together with Janine and the apprenticeship that we did together, which was now like 2 years ago, I think.
Yeah, it's nearly 3 because it was 2016. Yeah.
Wow.
Yeah.
Wow. Okay. How time has flown, and how I just, feel and see how much we've all grown from that experience. So I'm excited to have you on. Thank you so much for joining me and being part of this. I'm really grateful. And actually, it feels really beautiful to know you're in the same country. You're like kind of down the road on the South Island and I'm up on the North. So it's finally in the same time zone as one another, which is beautiful.
Yeah, absolutely. Yeah.
So I actually would love to just kind of start with an intention. And so that intention for me is really that to share, like between our channel, the shared channel between the two of us, to bring through what is in the highest and the best interest of those who are going to jump on and watch this call today, or who will watch the replay as well. So that it just brings the best of the two of us into this space, and to honor you and your gifts as well. So I feel like I would actually love to start with a little bit about your story, because where I know you is from your voice being your gift, and to me I just absolutely adore when you bring your voice through as your gift, as a healing presence. But I would love to understand a little bit more about that journey, where that began for you and how it's actually come to be such a gift for you and where you are now.
Yeah, so I grew up in the deep south of New Zealand on a sheep farm, and so I always was out in nature, and I always loved nature, and I've always felt a very deep connection with the land here in New Zealand, and I could sing from the time I was a little girl. I always had that gift naturally, but communication, I guess, was something that wasn't particularly easy in our family. And so I actually used to hold my breath when I was a little girl, and I used to sometimes be quite silent. So I guess singing in a way was a place for me where I could have a voice. Yeah, and so I grew up kind of listening to country and western music. And so I didn't grow up in a particularly musical family, but from the age of 13, I decided I wanted to be an opera singer. So I was quite... I was very passionate about pursuing that goal, which I did for a long time. until about the age of 40. So that took me on a really big journey, and you know, anyone will know who's kind of studied classical music in that field, you give up a lot. It's a lot of sacrifice to make. It's a lot of hours of practice. You know, I lived in a lot of cities where I wouldn't particularly have chosen to live. I lived overseas for 8 years. And yeah, so, you know, a lot of performing and a lot of working with breath and sound. And I feel like that has been a huge backdrop into what I now offer. So yeah, I guess from my late 20s, when I was in the UK, I became really interested more in sound as a healing tool. And yeah, I started going to workshops and, you know, studying with different teachers in that way. And then I think particularly from the age of 40, when I came back to New Zealand and my marriage broke up and I was back here in New Zealand, I started to really honor the gift of sound that I had in a different way. And so now predominantly, I guess I would say that I more channel sound or bring through sound in that way. And I do a lot of body work. So I'm more using my voice as a kind of vessel, I guess you would say. So it's a vessel. So I have to kind of get myself out of the way and bring through for the highest good, I guess you would say. And there's a lot of trust around that, I guess, as well, to really trust that. But yeah, my journey with the voice has not been, I wouldn't say it's been an easy one, but I think sometimes things that you have difficulty with in life are kind of driving tools as well for being able to help others as well.
Yeah, absolutely. How did you even discover that your voice was able to be a channel and to be able to be a healing gift beyond like being able to have a voice? You obviously knew that you were able to sing and have that aspect of a voice, but I feel like what I hear you bring through and what I've kind of witnessed, what that brings out in other people, it can bring that out in people who are not singers at all. So I'm interested in, how did you even discover that could be a healing tool?
I think it was just kind of a process of osmosis, I guess, or you know, all the different trainings that I was doing and lots of different trainings with the body. And I think that with classical music, it's very structured and, you know, it's got a very strong framework around it and how to sing classically. I think with the way I work now, it's much more a place of trusting the body. And you have to kind of let go of the mind to some extent and really trust the body. And it's like I bring the sound through the earth as well. I feel like the earth is bringing through my voice as well. So I suppose it was kind of like partly, you know, people would hear my voice and kind of their response to my voice. And just learning to trust my voice in that way and knowing that I had kind of a unique gift, I guess, in that way. And knowing the power of it, I guess, the power of it, you know, when I used it. So, because I think sound is a tool that penetrates. It's able to cut through very quickly and kind of break open if the person is ready for that. And, you know, I think it also, I like to do it gently as well. I'm not about necessarily breaking people open, but I think you tune into that person and you feel what they need.
So when you use your voice in your sessions, like if you're doing a bodywork session on somebody, if you use your voice, do you encourage them to use their voice as well, or is it more about your voice coming in as the channeled gift for them?
It can be both. So I'm all for people using their voice, absolutely. So it depends on that particular person's needs. Often, I guess people will be drawn to work with me because they have issues with using their voice. So I guess that's what I will draw in as well. So yeah, definitely I encourage people to use their voice, and I think that there's a beautiful, you know, I'm all for about voices coming together and the synergy between voices as well. They can be more like the kind of place that helps get them started or helps them to use their voice or helps them to feel safe or helps them to trust their own voice. I'm like that vessel, and then it's beautiful if they can trust their own voice, because I don't work in such a structured way. I don't have like an ABC equals D. I much prefer to work from an organic place and just trust the knowing of that being and trust the knowing of my being and see what dance wants to flow between us. Yeah.
So I feel like voice is such a thing that people actually get quite scared to use, like to open up their voice in front of other people, because people have a story of like, well, I can't sing, so therefore I better just be quiet unless I'm singing in the shower in the car by myself, or, you know, this is, and even coming from someone who, like, I used to sing when I was young, so I know I actually can sing, but I still get scared to open my voice. So I feel like it's a big thing for people. So I wonder how can people start to use their voice as a tool of channeling or just exploration beyond it being them trying to sing a song and have the correct voice?
Yeah, I mean, I think there's a few things. I think that I think there's one is just being able to be in a full permission space. So I think that traditionally in our Western society, we're very much kind of this kind of in boxes, and this is how you should sing and stand up straight and all of that, and a correct way to sing. And I'm much more about letting the organic voice flow through and seeing what wants to show up then. So I think one, it's like being given a full permission space to trust that. And I think another one is actually being able is the breath. I think the breath is absolutely crucial. And what I notice for a lot of people was that with their breath and with their voice, they're kind of breathing and sounding from sort of here up, and then they're not fully dropped into their body. So it's giving them some tools as well to be able to drop in their body, to trust their body with the sound, because when we can trust the body, there's a whole range of sounds that can be present. If we're only kind of still kind of in the mind, we're going to have a set way that we're going to do it. So I definitely like the breath, the body, movement, you know, shaking, finding places to relax the jaw and relax the throat. You know, we're often holding a lot in places in our body. So it's giving movement and space to those places so that we can just let it start to flow and unfurl in a way. Yeah.
Could you share with us? I'd love to hear your voice. If you can share some of that, like, yeah, I would love if you can bring some voice in, and maybe just also the other piece that I would really love is like when you say the breath and that most people are breathing here, maybe first if you can like explain away how do we breathe lower, how do we shift that breath, and then if you could share some of your sound would be so amazing.
I would, yeah. So, okay. So there's a couple of things. I like to come from a place of curiosity with the person. So I will often get them to notice what's happening in their body with their breath, rather than always being too directive. But what I would say is that if you watch a a newborn baby, you watch them when they move or when they laugh or when they cry, they're using their whole body, and you'll see the whole body breathing. And often we've got quite stuck in our diaphragm, so we're not letting our diaphragm expand. And so, and often even sometimes in like yogic practices, we're actually, I don't want to get into correct, I don't know if correct is the right word to use, but we can be pulling in the diaphragm rather than expanding the diaphragm. So it's about, you know, really letting the diaphragm go down and out. And I think for a lot of us, we're actually doing the opposite. So even like putting some books on your, lying on the floor and putting some books on your belly and just noticing what's happening in your belly, like is it coming out as you take a breath in, is your diaphragm, is your belly coming out? Yeah. So and also I think there's definitely a place around for the breath. I would say another little tip, without wanting to go too much into it, is around noticing what's happening in the jaw, because so many of us hold huge amount of tension in our jaws. And that when we can actually give the jaw space and we can start to do like a yawn we start to create space in the throat, and that also allows the breath to drop down further. So there's a couple of little
Right.
tips. Yeah.
Awesome.
But we've got to give the body space, I would say, to let the breath drop in. I think often what happens for a lot of people is they're trying to get the breath, or they're trying to make the breath, and actually the breath is something inherently natural in us, and it's about allowing the breath to drop into the body, and then about allowing it to let go. So it's also noticing, is it easier for me to take in breath, or is it easier for me to release my breath? Sometimes people actually have trouble releasing their breath as well. So just getting curious about that as well.
Right.
Yeah.
Actually, yeah, it's interesting. I've never thought about the release of the breath, actually.
Yeah.
Yeah. I
Well,
don't think I
sometimes
breathe
people
all the
will
way
take
out.
absolutely. And then get curious. So why might that be? Get curious why that might be. So for a lot of us, we might take a big breath in, but where does all that breath go? We actually don't need to have a lot of breath. And so when we take a big breath in, then notice what happens in your body. Are you starting to hold in your body with taking a lot of breath in? And notice what happens if you don't let all the breath out. Notice what's happening in the body then. So get curious around that. Yeah.
Fascinating. Now I am curious about my breath now. Like, where is it going if I don't breathe it all out?
Exactly. Exactly. Yeah. Yeah. So something to
Fascinating.
reflect on.
Yeah,
Yeah.
I'm gonna practice that. I'm gonna bring that into my meditation, I think, and inquire on that.
Yeah.
Hmm.
And just sit with you can do a breathing practice. You can lie on the floor and just do a breath about what's happening with your breath. Just get curious with your body, what's happening with your breath, and get curious. For instance, you could just say, what happens if I breathe into my knees? What happens if I take a breath into my feet? What happens in my body if I take a breath into my breasts? So just getting curious about what happens in your body if you intentionally breathe into those places.
Mm.
Yeah. Yeah.
Okay, beautiful. That's an awesome tip. I'm definitely gonna give that a try. Especially the
Yeah.
breathing into my breast. I would like to breathe into my breast and my yoni and see what happens then.
Yeah, yeah, definitely. And then, on the out breath, sometimes if you even have a little bit of trouble letting go on the out breath, you can start to just do a little bit of a hum or a sigh, or just make a small sound, and use a little bit of sound to let the breath go. That can be a useful way of really letting the breath go as well. Yeah.
Cool. Thank
Yeah.
you. And would you be open to sharing some of your voice?
Sure.
Yeah.
Yeah, so the process for me now, like with you asking me that, I'll just explain like maybe what happens for me is I have no idea what sound is going to come out of my mouth now. So again, like what you said about at the start about just allowing for the highest good to drop in. So I will just now really just take a breath and allow sound to come out, and that's a process of me doing that for quite a long time. But it's definitely a place of just allowing trust as well. I have to kind of get myself out of the way.
Right.
Makaya Tuanayaka